Welcome into Bayou Bengals football. So let's talk about LSU's win yesterday over Grambling State. So LSU 72-10 victory over Grambling State. And it was interesting. LSU did not really look too good defensively early in this game. But Brian Kelly in his press conference talked about, we were in a lot of dime packages. We kind of shifted to our Buffalo package where we went back to 4 down linemen, and that kind of cleared up the issues stopping the run. So LSU struggles early on, but a lot of times that happens with FCS teams. The FCS teams come out like they're shot out of a cannon. They execute at a high level. Makes you think they're going to play with them, and then the Power 5 team just the avalanche of points come in the rhythm offensively. So LSU did a lot of nice things in this game. 10 straight possessions scoring, which is awesome. Jaden Daniels looked good. The receivers looked good. You saw Chris Hilton getting some snaps in this game, which is awesome. So, in all honesty, credit LSU. They played good. Brian Thomas made a nice play, got wide open on that catch. Logan Diggs was very effective in this game. Logan Diggs, an excellent running back that Brian Kelly, they're happy to get him back. He's got a fantastic skill set, and Brian Kelly talked in the postgame. He really knew what Logan Diggs was capable. It was just a matter of getting him out on the field. So really nice win for LSU. 72-10 over Grambling State. So Grambling State, I was impressed. You got to believe a Hugh Jackson coach team is going to come out with a lot of pride, and they really did so. I did not. It was cool to see Hugh Jackson coaching this game. I did not realize he was coaching at Grambling State. I kind of had lost track of where he was coaching. With all due respect, after his time in the NFL was up. But this is a guy that had some success in the National Football League. You knew his team was probably going to play fundamentally sound. You knew going into this game they were probably going to go out and play with a lot of pride, and they really did that, even though the score not really indicative of the effort they put forth. But for LSU, moving to 1-1 like I talked, with Mississippi State on the rise. And I think, Mississippi State is not going to present a huge challenge necessarily for LSU, but it is going to be it's a test at this point in the season where if they come away with the win, then you're kind of going, okay, maybe we are getting it back on track, and we are kind of winning ways are kind of coming into our on our path, if you will. So LSU goes to 1-1, got a chance to go to 2-1 next week, but Mississippi State going to present certainly more of a challenge than Grambling State. They won in overtime yesterday at home against Arizona. Will Rogers, the quarterback. Will Rogers, certainly a talented, mobile guy. So LSU going to really need to really play well, execute, and they're going to need some at least one or two of their playmakers on both sides of the ball to shine in this football game if they want to come away with the win over Mississippi State in their first SEC win. So, what do they need to do? Well, Jaden Daniels needs to play well. They need to put on points on several consistent drives. The game last year against Mississippi State was kind of a tough game that they had to really eventually pull away, that they had to make sure to try to pull away to get the win. This year I expect it to be kind of similar to that. I think it'll be a tough, hard-fought game. I think LSU does pull away later in the game, maybe mid-third quarter, end of the third quarter. But I think similar outcome. LSU wins by a couple scores, but I think in the first half it'll be a lot of back and forth. It'll be a hard, physical, tough game. I think Mississippi State's offense kind of will keep LSU on their toes. They do have some playmakers. Their running back is a playmaker, Marks, number 7. He's at LSU. He's going to present certainly a challenge for this LSU defense. But LSU kind of looking more so, I know it's Grambling State, but looking more so like the LSU team we thought. And what I mean by that is Harold Perkins, I think, is in a better position to succeed at playing at the jack position. I think Maason Smith out there, even though it wasn't for a lot of snaps, he looked pretty good. Him and Mekhi Wingo out there, Harold Perkins, all those three guys out there at the same time is really fun to see. So I think that is those are going to be critical for LSU having a really nice season. Perkins good. It was cool to see Greg Penn getting snaps and Greg Penn playing pretty well. The secondary, Ashton Stamps getting snaps. Denver Harris got the start. And they asked Brian Kelly in the postgame about, what was kind of the reasoning why Denver Harris, what kind of changed to get him the nod as far as the starting role in this game. And Brian Kelly said that, we have, we need guys to do things a certain way consistently. And if you're not doing those things, you're going to end up watching. So Denver Harris really got things together, and that's why he's earned his playing time and he's earned his opportunity to get on the field for LSU. So cool that Denver Harris making the most of his opportunity and getting the start. He did give up a touchdown yesterday, but Denver Harris, a talented guy, and I'm sure, trusting the LSU coaching staff, if they believe he's the best guy, one of the best guys, and should be out there, then you gotta trust their evaluation of Denver Harris. So yeah, cool to see him out there. Zy Alexander out there, Stamps getting reps, Andre Sam playing, Greg Brooks, Major Burns. Sam missed some tackles, but I think they'll clean that up. That was kind of early in the game when Grambling State had some bigger openings and bigger lanes to run. It was kind of, they had more their open field tackling was a little bit more difficult at that point. So even though Burns, Sam missed some tackles in this game, I don't think it's overly concerning. Spades still looks okay. I wasn't watching him super closely, but I think they can, against Mississippi State, they're going to need, one of these games they're going to need him, that physical presence inside, where they're going to need kind of that side of him that is capable of being that strong thumper, run stopper guy. They're going to need that at some point. Could be next week against Mississippi State. So keep an eye on Omar Speights next week. So he's got a chance. They need him to really continue to play at a high level and hopefully play better next week. But yeah, LSU heading into SEC play. It's really fun. It's a really fun time when SEC play rolls around. An opportunity to see how to gauge LSU, where they at amongst the other SEC opponents. Mississippi State beat Arizona, but what is that? Does that really mean much? How much is what can we gauge from that necessarily? Arizona, I know, has not been a good team, but is it Arizona just a really poor team this year that's lost a lot of transfers and Mississippi State was just good enough? Or is it Arizona is actually a good team and Mississippi State went out and beat a good football team, and that Mississippi State is a stronger 2-0 than we thought? So we're going to kind of get some questions answered. And then for LSU, are we going to see the LSU that scored 10 straight possessions last night against Grambling and executing and getting into a flow offensively, in an LSU team that preseason number 5, was hyped up in a team that can play that way? Are we going to get that LSU, or are we going to get the LSU in the second half against Florida State that was really beaten pretty badly and allowed 31 consecutive points? So which LSU team are we going to see against Mississippi State? I think somewhere in the middle. But I think, LSU's, somewhat in the middle play of against Grambling and Florida State is a pretty high level play, and I think it is going to be good enough to get the win. So I'm interested to see what the line opens up with against Mississippi State. I have to believe that LSU's probably going to be favored, maybe 6.5, 7. It might be higher than that, maybe 7.5, 8-ish. But I feel like it's probably at least 6.5, 7, I want to say. Bama, Texas, was 7 points. So, yeah, I would feel like 6.5, 7 at least would be most likely. But yeah, that'll be fascinating to watch. It's cool to see Malik Neighbors made a big play. They're going to need some more big plays for Malik Neighbors in this game if they really if they want to come out with a victory. But yeah, Neighbors is a stud, and he is a guy who I love that when he gets going downhill, he is kind of like a bowling ball bouncing off defenders. Pretty agile guy. But I worry, he just hopefully, Malik Neighbors just needs to stay healthy. You know, it's interesting watching the way he runs. He's not really like kind of like jittery, can cut. He just wants to make a like a hard cut and just get north and south as quick as possible. So interesting the way Malik Neighbors his run after the catch, but it was on full display last night. Brian Thomas, excellent. Kyron Lacey, good. Receivers looked like they cleaned up the drops. It was a lot of, when I talked about kind of previewed this game, LSU, they really cleaned up a lot of the things that they needed to clean up in order to have success in this football game. So I thought that was cool. Number one, no drops. Offense playing consistently. Now, Brian Kelly said Jane Daniels did miss some throws. I can agree with that, but it wasn't enough where it was an issue in this game. But that, I guess, that kind of goes with the point of they're going to go against better competition, and they're going to need Jane Daniels to the throws that he missed, or the guys that were open that he missed, they're going to need him to make those throws in order to win some games down the road. But yeah, Brian Kelly does a good job of respecting his opponents in his post game press conferences, and he did not want to take anything away from Grambling State, but he was just honest. It's gonna get tougher from here on out. Here comes the grind of the SEC, but Brian Kelly embraces this. He talked about he likes playing SEC more. More is better for him, in his opinion, of playing more SEC games. So Brian Kelly up for the challenge and the grind that the SEC is going to bring this season. But yeah, credit Grambling State the way they played early in the first half. It's good to know that the guy that got injured is doing okay. And yeah, so we'll talk Logan Diggs' performance some more in this game. Logan Diggs, excellent game, and I did not know. He's a guy whose tape I was impressed with. But the more I watch him, I really start to get an appreciation for this guy's skill set. And, that's the thing. It's awesome they were able to establish the run in this football game, because LSU, to me, I guess, my projection for the high-end ability, for the ceiling of what Logan Diggs could be in this offense was for the most part on display against Grambling. Logan Diggs, he is a guy who is a patient runner, a guy who has the ability to really turn up and accelerate for good yardage, makes quick, effective cuts, and they're even more so effective behind the LSU offensive line. All that was on display, and he has the ability to hurdle defenders. He's a better athlete than you'd think. I don't mean that in any disrespect, but he's a guy that when you initially watch him, you're kind of going, yeah, he's a good athlete, but he just doesn't, the way his body's built, you don't really picture him having a whole lot of agility, but he is pretty agile in that regard as far as, body control, quick, effective cuts. So Logan Diggs, really nice game, and you got to believe with that performance, he's making a case to be the man going forward. But it sounds like against Florida State, it was strictly a coach's decision. Brian Kelly talked in the postgame that he just wanted to get they wanted to get Logan Diggs full. They wanted to make sure this guy was fully healthy, but they knew what he was capable of, and that was on full display last night against Grambling. But yeah, Logan Diggs probably going to be the man going forward. Trey Bradford too could be in the mix. Josh Williams, I thought, had a nice game. Williams, though, like we touched on, Williams kind of the guy that, he is a good change of pace back, meaning that he's kind of sneaky good. When he gets in, he'll make he can have a nice 8-9 yard run and pick up yards in a hurry. Guy that has he has good enough quickness to pick up yardage, but his acceleration is not really high end by any stretch of the imagination, but a good all-around player, and he had a nice game as well. And they absolutely love his veteran presence like we talked about. But yeah, they're going to so Brian Kelly confirmed that they will get John Emery Jr. back next week, which will be big because Emery Jr. brings that physical downhill running similar to Noah Cain. So yeah, and then Caleb Jackson, we did see him last night. So yeah, I mean a full, real nice complement of running backs for the LSU Tigers. And Caleb Jackson, a talented recruit, 4-star guy coming out of high school, a guy with a lot of hype. So we'll see if they continue to play him next week. We'll see how they really use the running backs next week. I believe Logan Diggs should be the man, and we'll see. Still a good game, but it is Grambling State, so we'll see how he performs against a quality SEC opponent. I think that'll be kind of the next question. It is a small question, or it's not a major question, because Logan Diggs, I think, his ability last night really, spoke for itself, even if it was against a lesser opponent. But I think it is a small question. Can he do it? Can they establish the run, and can he be that kind of the bell cow and really be a dominant runner against like I said, a quality SEC caliber opponent? But yeah, and then I shouldn't go this far, or I shouldn't go throughout this episode without talking about the offensive line. Offensive line was excellent in this game, and that's the offensive line. This was a game where I think if LSU played well, I think the offensive line just wouldn't be talked about, just because LSU people were looking for so many other things, like like we talked about, Logan Diggs, Caleb Jackson, Ashton Stamps, a lot of the other things that developed. But it was cool that Zealand's Hurd got some snaps. So, but the offensive line as a whole played really well, and that's what they. I think that the Florida State game really answered the question that this is not going to be an elite offensive line, sadly, but it still could be a very good offensive line, and at least a good offensive line. So it was really nice that they had a quality performance last night, and hopefully they continue to put together a string of nice performances, especially with LSU playing 3 consecutive or how many is it in a row? Especially with 3 fairly quality SEC opponents to come. So hopefully the offensive line continues to play at that high level. But yeah, Brian Kelly, he was asked about playing another an FCS school in the state of Louisiana, and said, yeah, he really cherished this opportunity. Thinks it's a cool experience, and he enjoyed. When he looks back on his coaching career, this will be a moment that he will remember. Brian Kelly seemed almost a little kind of. I don't know if I want to use the word disappointed, but I think that there's still a burning hunger for Brian Kelly. I think this was a game that, to me, he might not say this. This is a game he probably just kind of wanted to get over with, and I don't mean that as a shot at Grambling. I think it was a game he just wanted to get a win. He just wanted to get a win, show enough of improvement, and then just get on and just move on fairly quickly enough to really focus on SEC opponents. Because he's, like he touched on, he's been doing this for a long time. He was proud of the way they had the 10 straight possessions of scoring, but he understands that playing at this level of football, and especially in the SEC, it is a grind when you get into conference play, and they're going to be geared up for it. So I know I've reiterated that multiple times, but that really is the best way. One of the best ways to describe playing in the SEC. It is a grind, and you really have to get up every week, and you can't take opponents for granted. So Brian Kelly, an opportunity to get to 2-1. I think my take is pretty spot on. Not to toot my own horn, but you feel like if LSU can win these next 3 games. We'll say 3 games. Obviously you want to win 4, 5, or however you obviously want to win the next 7 before Alabama. But if LSU can win these next 3 games, then that means you're 3-0 in conference play, 4-0 in non-conference, winning 4 straight games. You're 4-1 overall, and it's all of a sudden with 3 conference games, 1 under your belt, and a 4-1 record, the Florida State game starts to seem more and more as a distant memory. So I think that's ideally the goal for LSU, just to keep winning, and keep improving, where the Florida State game seems more of like a distant memory. If you think about it, that was kind of how things went down last year a little bit. I know they had the loss to Tennessee. What was it, mid to late October, I believe. But that's kind of the way. I think Brian Kelly is treating the loss to Florida State more similarly to the loss to Tennessee last year, as opposed to the loss to Florida State last year, if that makes sense. I think he's kind of seeing, using it as maybe a test to his team. Now, obviously, it's a test. He did not want his team to have to try to pass, because obviously they wanted to win that football game. But I think it's a test that he wants, a test that it's not going to quite be done after Grambling State. It's a test that's probably going to be that you might know the answer to after 3 games, but it's a test you're certainly going to know the answer to after the Alabama game. But, well, I say that, but if they lose a couple games before Alabama, then you know that the test is likely failed. But I think it's the test that, how does the team, I guess that's kind of a cliche. How does a team rebound? But I guess even though that's a cliche, that probably is the best way to phrase the question, how does the team rebound? But to me, it's true in the sense that you're really looking to, like I said, move on, win enough where you move on from the Florida State game. And can we look like the team that Brian Kelly thinks they can be, and that a lot of people in the preseason thought they could be? But yeah, I mean, not to take anything away from last night's performance, even though it's going against an FCS opponent, LSU does get it done, does get in the win column. They do cover the spread for you guys betting out there. 56.5, I believe, was the line on some sites. I don't know, what the that was the line I saw before game time. So LSU did cover, and I guess I did predict that right. I said that whatever the line in this game was, I would take LSU, because you knew LSU was going to score points. You knew they were going to want to make an emphasis to play better offensively and defensively. So, and Noah Kane even said it in when he was interviewed that we're going to take our anger out on Grambling State. So with all those things kind of being into play, that creates the ultimate case for LSU to cover the spread in this game. So yeah, LSU 72-10 victory over Grambling State. LSU moves to 1-1 now, and will open SEC play against Mississippi State. So yeah, let's try to think. What else did we want to discuss in this game? Yeah, Maason Smith back. I guess we'll take a deeper dive into that. So Maason Smith, they didn't really need him to be utterly disruptive. I thought he could have done a better job of, kind of just holding his ground as opposed to shooting, trying to get off a block too quickly and kind of just whiffing. I think he did that once or twice, but yeah. Maason Smith, just his presence out there is going to be huge for LSU. Just him being on the field, just his size, 6'5.5", 6'6", 300 pounds. He's going to create such a unique challenge for opposing offensive lines and opposing offenses as a whole. So, yeah, it's really, really cool to see him back. And like the announcer said, that was the first time he had played in a football game in over 20 months since the bowl game at the end of the 2021 season. So it's been a long time coming for Maason Smith. It was cool to see him back on the football field and playing. Or not the first time playing, it was the first time playing a whole game since the 2021 season. But yeah, Mason Taylor was dealing with injury. Brian Kelly did confirm in the post-game press conference that it was an ankle sprain. Mason Taylor, hopefully they keep him fully healthy. He's a guy that they really need. Obviously, is a very talented tight end. They're going to need him next week against the Mississippi State Bulldogs. So hopefully he can get that ankle sprain. Hopefully he can get that fully healed. Hopefully he rehabs it or does everything he can to get back to just about full health next week for when they play Mississippi State. Trying to think what else. Yeah, I think so. Omar Spates, yeah, I think he's got to perform better in this game. Spates, we talk about skill sets translating when you bring in a high level transfer. I think Spates' skill set has not really translated as well as I thought. Not to say he has been bad by any stretch of the imagination, but he has not been. At Oregon State, you really watched him out there. He was a lot more disruptive, and I thought his movement skill was better. Now, it looked like he is bulked up maybe a little bit this year, but it appears to be kind of affecting his movement skills a little bit. I thought he was a little bit better of a mover at Oregon State, but I guess that's the case where, moving from the Pac-12 to the SEC is a jump up, but it's not a jump up enough where that you really thought Spates was going to take a somewhat of a big step back in his game. Now, I'm going to reiterate again, he has not been bad at all, but just, I thought, I pictured Spates just having a big game. Maybe these games were not suited is best for him to have a big game, meaning, Florida State more of a kind of run some more gap scheme run plays. They're not as downhill of a running team, I guess. They did kind of want to attack the edges too, and they did kind of spread LSU out. Maybe Florida State, and then with Grambling State, they did. Like I said, they were in some dime packages early, so Spates. A little bit more out in space. Grambling did spread it out. So maybe those two matchups are not necessarily ideal for Spates to have a big game. But a team like Mississippi State, seems like they will spread you out a little bit. But I think that, with the running back Marks, he is more of a downhill north and south guy. Seems like Mississippi State probably will run between the tackles more. I think Spates will have a chance to shine more so in this game against Mississippi State. But if not in this game, likely one of these games, I think he has a really big game, and a lot of people will be saying, yeah, that's the standout from Oregon State who we've needed to perform well, and there's his big game. So I think the big game is coming from Omar Spates. I think the question is when that will be, and hopefully it is in. Hopefully it's soon, and hopefully it is in one of the bigger games, whether it comes against Alabama, whether it comes against Ole Miss, Arkansas, Florida. Hopefully we get that key game where Omar Spates really flashes his full ability. But yeah, and then speaking of a guy flashing his full ability, Harold Perkins I thought was a little better last night. They need, I think LSU is waiting for him to shine in one of these games. I know we're just 2 games in, but Harold Perkins is a guy who has the ability to be a game wrecker, really just get after quarterbacks. So Perkins, a lot like I touched on with Omar Spates, has a chance to really be extremely disruptive and do some nice things. So just, Harold Perkins back in that jack position, get a chance to just, on a lot of plays, a lot of third downs, second and longs, third and longs, have a chance to just really pin his ears back and get after quarterbacks, something that he thrives on, something that he does very well. So keep an eye on Harold Perkins moving forward. Omar Spates, really talented players, and guys that, you feel like they are definitely due to have a big, outstanding performance coming up. But yeah, guys, we'll wrap with that. Thanks so much for tuning in to Bayou Bengals Talk. Make sure to stay tuned for more episodes and clips from the show.